The first compact crossover from Nissan debuted in Russia in the spring of 2007 and immediately became a bestseller due to its favorable combination of price and quality. Qashqai is built according to the traditional scheme for crossovers. It has a load-bearing body, independent suspension of all wheels, high ground clearance, and a 4x4 transmission with an electronically controlled clutch in the rear axle drive. We also sold front-wheel drive versions, and with both engines, gasoline 4s with a volume of 1.6 liters, 115 horsepower, and 2 liters, 141 horsepower. Gearboxes, 5 and 6-speed manual, and a V-belt variator were only available with the 2-liter engine. In 2008, a 7-seater Qashqai Plus 2 modification appeared with a wheelbase extended by 135 mm and a rear overhang by 75 mm. And in 2009, the car has undergone restyling. For 7 years of production of the model, more than 2 million copies have been sold worldwide. The biggest problem for Qashqai owners is when they start to confuse a crossover with an SUV. Slipping in snow or mud will quickly finish off the electromagnetic rear-wheel clutch, which is poorly protected from dust and dirt, and it costs from 35,000 rubles. Along the way, the Jatco JF011E variator also gets it, which does not like slippage and ragged driving with sharp starts and braking, especially when cold. And if you still neglect the scheduled oil change periods, only the proprietary Nissan transmission CVT fluid NS2 is allowed at 4,800 rubles per liter every 60,000 kilometers, then by no means a cheap repair. About 150,000 rubles of the unit is provided to you. Indeed, even with careful handling, the service life of the pushing belt, from 34,000 rubles, of the variator is a maximum of 150,000 kilometers. And you can't pull with the replacement. A worn belt will inevitably leave scuffs on the surface of the conical pulleys. And it is sold for the price of 2 push belts. Here also consider, together with the belt, the bearings of the drive and driven shafts are usually updated, 5,000 to 8,000 rubles each. At risk is also a stepper motor, from 10,000 rubles, which changes the gear ratios of the variator. Engines. Gasoline engines, 1.6 liters with the index HR16DE and 2-liter MR20DE, are similar in design and reliability. They are equipped with a phase change system at the inlet in the gas distribution mechanism, which is driven by a chain, and do not have hydraulic compensators in the valve drive. It would seem that there should be no problems, but by 100,000 kilometers, the chain is stretched, which is why the gas distribution phases leave, and at one fine moment the engine simply will not start. The camshaft position sensor will work. By this time, you need to pay attention to the rear, the most loaded engine mount. She is probably already tired and will ask for a replacement. The remaining 2, the upper ones, stand 1.5 times longer. True, they cost from 9,500 rubles apiece. With age, both motors begin to snot, oil and coolant leak through the seals and seals. The fact is that instead of traditional gaskets in the fours, a sealant is used, which dries out after 5 to 6 years. The problem is solved by applying fresh sealant to the mating surfaces of the parts. If antifreeze evaporates, we recommend checking the expansion tank. It often cracks at the joint. Another reason for the leakage of coolant is through the thermostat O-ring. The fuel pump is often capricious. Its filter mesh is clogged, designed for the entire life of the pump, and the plastic pipe of the fuel pump installed in the tank also bursts. For this reason, Nissan even ran a replacement recall campaign. If such a defect is found on your machine, you will have to pay from 13,000 rubles for a new pump. For prevention purposes, it is recommended to flush the throttle assembly every 30 to 40,000 kilometers. And with the 2-liter engine, you need to be careful when replacing candles. The walls of the candle well are very thin and can burst with excessive force. And then the coolant enters the combustion chamber, and the exhaust gases enter the cooling system. Prepare big money for a new blockhead or even an entire engine. On the Russian market, there are also diesel modifications with turbo engines with the common rail power system with a volume of 1.5 liters, 103 horsepower, and 2 liters, 150 horsepower. They are reliable, especially the 2-liter, but the key to their longevity is high-quality fuel. Therefore, over time, you will have to spend money on new injection nozzles and a converter. There is a congenital sore on the 1.5-liter K9K diesel engine. The connecting rod bearings begin to tap. At the same time, for about 150,000 to 180,000 kilometers, the turbine will order to live for a long time. With age, the fuel line pipes swell, the fuel priming pump mopes. Although this is a trifle, against its background, the 2-liter M9R unit looks like a standard of reliability. Of the potential engine malfunctions, only bursting tubes of the fuel return system and a particulate filter clogging when driving in traffic jams can be distinguished. However, this applies to all diesel vehicles operated in Russia. By and large, there are almost no pitfalls in the suspension. There are only marked shallows, among which short-lived strut support bearings and front wheel bearings stand out. On the first cars, they asked for replacements at 40,000 to 60,000 kilometers. At first, shock absorbers also nursed about the same amount. After restyling in 2009, the resource of most chassis elements increased by 2 to 3 times. However, in steering, the rubber seal of the steering shaft is still annoying with squeaks. Replacing it for a long time does not help. It is usually lubricated with silicone grease. And in the brake system, the caliper of the front mechanisms is jammed. The good news is that inexpensive repair kits can be found on sale. The body of the Qashqai is fairly well protected against corrosion. But the paintwork is not durable. Chips and scratches quickly appear. The paint and the external, chrome, decor become cloudy. Over time, the rear door handle becomes loose. Tightening it with the removal of the upholstery will pull an average of 2,000 rubles from the officials. Some interior details do not please with durability. The steering wheel, gear lever, and front panel plastic. Due to the ingress of dirt into the guides, the power windows of the front doors and the electric sunroof in the roof jam. In order not to get into expensive repairs, they must be cleaned periodically, otherwise you will have to change the burned-out drive motor. There have been cases of failure of the steering column switch block and audio control on the steering wheel. There are malfunctions in the climate control and audio system. After 2009, the Japanese did serious work on the bugs and cured many sores. Therefore, it is more expedient to buy Qashqai younger than 2010 release. And further, you should not try on all possible defects on your copy. After all, according to statistics, half of the owners of all the used Qashqai presented to us had no problems with the car at all, so they consider it unconditionally reliable. By and large, it is.